Most men get played, not because women are smarter, but because men walk into love blind. Let me fix that. They say love is a battlefield, but what most men never realize is that they're walking onto it unprepared. They move with pure intentions, thinking sincerity is a shield and honesty is enough to win hearts. It's noble, sure, but in reality, it's naive. Because behind every romantic moment, every smile, every soft touch, every "I miss you," there's also a subtle exchange of influence. Not manipulation, not games, but human nature. And the man who forgets that dynamic becomes the man who gets blindsided. Here's the truth most men refuse to accept. The average woman isn't trying to break you down. She's trying to understand you. She's wondering what you're made of, how solid you really are, whether your center stays firm when life starts shaking. It's not destruction, it's evaluation. Every emotional test she throws your way has the same hidden question baked into it. Can I trust this man to stay grounded when I'm not? But too many men answer this question with panic, over-explanations, or desperate reassurance. They respond with emotion instead of intention, reaction instead of confidence. And that's the moment respect starts slipping through their fingers. One of the oldest principles in human psychology is this: certainty is attractive. Not arrogance. Not intimidation. Certainty. A woman naturally gravitates toward a man who doesn't wobble every time she changes tone or mood. The moment she senses you're bending yourself just to keep her happy, she knows she's dealing with someone who's not standing on their own foundation. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who abandons himself for approval. So let's break down the first principle of what I call the darker, deeper laws of masculine presence. Rules that aren't about manipulation, but about becoming a man who leads himself before he tries to lead anyone else. Underscore 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 underscore. Dark law number 1. Control perception, not people. Most men try to win respect by explaining themselves. They talk about who they are, what they stand for, what they would never do. But strength isn't declared, it's observed. When you stop trying to convince people of who you are, something interesting happens. They become curious. And curiosity is magnetic. Mystery is masculine gravity. It pulls without chasing, and it leaves room for imagination, which is 10 times more powerful than explanation. A man who can stay calm in moments where most men overreact instantly shifts the dynamic. Whether she's upset, emotional, or testing your patience, your silence becomes a message. Not cold, not punishing, just steady. That steadiness signals self-control, and self-control signals strength. It's like being a lighthouse in a storm. You don't lecture the waves. You don't shout into the wind. You just stand, grounded. And that presence speaks louder than any argument could. Underscore 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 underscore. Dark law number 2. Never fight for attention. Let absence create it. Every man has experienced the moment when she becomes distant. A slower text. A shorter tone. A colder energy. And what do most men do? They sprint into panic mode. They send longer messages. They overexplore feelings. They try to fix what they don't even understand yet. But here's the paradox. Chasing dissolves attraction. Space revives it. If she pulls away, you don't match that energy with urgency. You match it with calm absence. Not avoidance, not punishment, just stillness. A purposeful pause. Because when a woman feels a man's presence suddenly vanish, not out of anger but out of composure, her mind begins to wander. She starts wondering if she misread your level of attachment, if she underestimated your self-respect, if she assumed too quickly that you'd always be there no matter what. That curiosity becomes a spark, and that spark often does more to rekindle connection than any effort would. Absence, when used with intention, is not a game. It's a mirror. It reflects the truth of how you carry yourself, even when you feel insecure. Underscore 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 underscore. Dark law number 3. Command presence through emotional independence. There's a paradox in attraction that most men learn too late. What chases gets taken for granted. What stands still gets pursued. Women are emotional strategists by nature. They read tone, energy, confidence, hesitation. And the moment she senses that your emotional world revolves around hers, her interest begins to fade. Not out of cruelty, but biology. A man who abandons his own center becomes predictable, and predictability becomes boring. But when she realizes your world keeps spinning, with or without her approval, something shifts. Your independence becomes compelling. Your peace becomes intimidating in the best possible way. She wants to understand it. She wants to be part of it. She wants to know what fuels your calm. This isn't about being cold. It's about being stable. Accessible but not dependent, warm but not needy, present but not orbiting. A man who moves like that becomes unforgettable without ever trying to be. Underscore 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 underscore. Dark law number 4. Never argue for respect, show it through stillness. When a woman crosses a line, most men respond with explanations. They lecture about boundaries. They argue about fairness. They try to convince her why something is disrespectful. But the moment you argue for respect, you're admitting you don't have it. Real authority, real presence, is communicated through calm consequences, not verbal negotiation. When a man values his peace, he doesn't debate his dignity. He simply holds to it. If she tries to provoke a reaction, the strongest move is silence paired with composure. Not the silent treatment. Not passive-aggressive distance. Just a pause that communicates, "I won't meet you in chaos." That alone shifts the dynamic. She will remember your stillness long after she forgets your words. Women don't reflect deeply when a man explains. They reflect deeply when he stops engaging in what doesn't align with him. Dark law number 5. Make people earn your kindness. We live in a world that tells men to always be understanding, always be patient, always be endlessly forgiving. And while compassion is powerful, compassion without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. Kindness is meaningful only when it has structure. When you give endlessly without standards, you don't look noble, you look disposable. A man with self-respect doesn't withdraw warmth out of anger. He withdraws it out of alignment. When someone crosses a clear line, he doesn't announce it. He simply adjusts his availability. This teaches in a way arguments never could. And here's where most men fail. Women don't lose interest because you're too kind. They lose interest because your kindness lacks structure, because it has no edge. Boundaries don't make you harsh. They make you respectable. And in romance, respect is the soil attraction grows in. Dark law number 6. Create emotional contrast. Predictability is the enemy of attraction. Think back to the early stages of any relationship. The excitement, the unpredictability, the mystery of not knowing exactly where things were headed. That emotional roller coaster wasn't chaos. It was chemistry. It was the contrast between closeness and distance, warmth and uncertainty, presence and absence. But eventually, most men fall into a trap. They become predictable. Always available, always reassuring, always ready at a moment's notice. And what happens? The tension dies. The spark fades. She stops seeing you as a source of excitement and starts seeing you as background noise. A man who understands emotional contrast doesn't disappear to punish. He shifts rhythms to maintain fascination. He knows that consistency of character doesn't require consistency of availability. Sometimes he gives affection freely. Other times he focuses on his goals, his mission, his life. He doesn't flood her with attention. He offers it in meaningful doses. He doesn't suffocate. He breathes in and out. This rhythm creates the kind of intrigue that naturally keeps attraction alive. Not because you're playing games, but because you're maintaining polarity, the balance of masculine stability and feminine unpredictability. And that balance is what keeps love dynamic, not dull. Dark law number 7. Make her invest more than you give. Every relationship is an exchange of energy. Time, effort, affection, communication, all of it forms a quiet economy. And in any economy, the one who invests more becomes more emotionally attached. This is where many men sabotage themselves. They overgive too early. They pour loyalty, effort, and emotional labor into someone who hasn't earned it yet. They try to win affection instead of letting it grow naturally. But the deeper truth is simple. People value what they work for. They cherish what they invest in. If you're giving 80% while she's giving 20%, the connection becomes lopsided. You become the predictable constant while she becomes the prize. But attraction doesn't flourish when one person becomes the emotional supplier and the other becomes the emotional consumer. A man with self-respect allows the relationship to balance itself. He lets her contribute. He gives in proportion to the effort she shows. He allows her to feel the reward of being valued because she earned it, not because he's afraid of losing her. That's not manipulation. That's healthy reciprocity. And this shift alone can transform the entire dynamic. Dark law number 8. Reward effort, not emotion. Most men respond to a woman's emotions instead of her actions. If she cries, they comfort her. If she's angry, they explain harder. If she's distant, they try to pull her back with affection. But here's the issue. Emotions are temporary. Effort is meaningful. You want to reward the behaviors that contribute to a healthy relationship, not the ones that create chaos. When she's kind, feminine, supportive, and loving, you meet her with warmth. When she withdraws, becomes disrespectful, or tries to provoke you, you don't reward it with attention. You don't argue, don't debate, don't plead. You simply step back. This doesn't mean you stonewall. It means you maintain your peace. In that space, she has time to reflect. She begins to think instead of react. Silence becomes the reset button. And for many women, silence isn't empty, it's loud. It makes them ask themselves questions. Did I go too far? Why did he stop responding? Did I misjudge his patience? That reflection is far more powerful than any speech you could give. Actions shape behavior. Consequences shape respect. Dark law number 9. Let mystery be your strength, and peace be your armor. Humans are fascinated by what they don't fully understand. Mystery isn't about secrecy. It's about depth. It's the quiet confidence of a man who has layers, ambitions, purpose, and internal calm that doesn't shake easily. But many men reveal too much too quickly. They confess every emotion, explain every fear, and expose every wound. Vulnerability has a place, but overexposure kills intrigue. You don't have to be a locked vault. Just don't be an open book with blank pages. A powerful man doesn't react on impulse. He responds with intention. When she pushes, he doesn't topple. When she expects a certain reaction, he breaks the pattern. When she tests him, he remains calm. This unpredictability, not chaos, but composure, makes you stand out. Women remember men who carry themselves with emotional depth and internal stillness. They don't forget the man who doesn't reveal everything yet carries himself with purpose. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's presence with patience. It's confidence without noise. Dark law number 10. Withdraw fully to preserve your authority. There will come a moment when you realize you can't talk your way back into respect. Words won't fix it. Promises won't fix it. Effort won't fix it. This is the moment when withdrawal becomes necessary, not as punishment, but as self-respect. When you reach the point where your boundaries are repeatedly crossed, where your value is taken for granted, or where your presence is expected no matter how you're treated, walking away becomes the only statement left. And the power of that statement is in its finality. Not dramatic. Not loud. Not emotional. Just gone. A man who can walk away from disrespect is a man who values himself more than temporary connection. And ironically, this is the kind of man women respect the most. Not because he's cold, but because he refuses to betray himself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer someone is your absence. Dark law number 11. Become her emotional gravity. Every relationship eventually becomes an orbit. One person becomes the emotional anchor, and the other starts revolving around that stability. When you remain grounded, no matter how emotional or chaotic the moment, your calm becomes the center. Ironically, women don't want emotional chaos. They just want to know the man they're with can handle it. They want to feel that their intensity doesn't break you. A man who stands firm becomes the gravitational pull. Her moods don't sway him. Her doubts don't shake him. Her storms don't drown him. The more grounded he stays, the more she gravitates toward that stability. This isn't dominance or control. It's leadership through emotional maturity. Masculine calm doesn't suppress feminine emotion. It gives it a place to land. Dark law number 12. Live like you cannot be replaced. Not in arrogance. Not in ego. But in purpose. A man who walks into a room with quiet confidence, not seeking validation, not hoping for approval, not competing for attention, radiates a different energy. He becomes someone people naturally pay attention to without him asking for it. This type of man is rare today because most people are loud without being powerful, confident without being grounded. A man who walks with purpose carries a type of magnetism that can't be faked. He's not trying to impress. He's following his mission. And ironically, that's what makes him impressive. Women feel the difference immediately. He doesn't chase being chosen, he chooses. Final law, power isn't about control, it's about direction. The goal isn't to dominate anyone. It's to master yourself. A man who leads himself, his emotions, his decisions, his standards, naturally commands respect without demanding it. Self-mastery is the throne no one can overthrow. When you stop trying to be understood and start focusing on becoming unshakable, everything changes. Your silence becomes powerful. Your presence becomes memorable. Your calm becomes rare. You stop seeking permission and start embodying purpose. You stop begging for affection and start inspiring it. You stop chasing approval and start attracting it. This isn't about being cold. This is about being complete. And when a man becomes complete, everything around him adjusts. His energy sharpens. His boundaries strengthen. His relationships elevate. If you've ever given too much of yourself, if you've ever lost your center trying to keep someone else, let this be your turning point. Reclaim your authority. Rebuild your foundation. Walk with purpose. And if this message resonated, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, because the world doesn't just need more men. It needs stronger ones.